So this is Berninneit, again, if you can give me 2 minutes. Yep. This is Berninneit Cultural and Community Centre on Bunurong country in Phillip Island, and Berninneit meets gather together, and this is really about a brand new community facility for the island. It's located in Cowes on the northern edge of the island, and the site itself is on the primary civic spine of the main street of Cowes, and it housed some former council buildings themselves. They've been there for a long time though, and they are fairly dilapidated and not really fit for purpose in terms of the offer that they are generating back to the community. And so this is a project that's been really kicking around for, as I understand it, at least 20 years. Lots of consultation with stakeholder groups. Probably got serious in 2015 when an activity centre plan was generated. Terrawhite had an early concept. There was a lot of community stakeholder work. And then 2019, Ian Perkins Architects evolved and developed a scheme for the site. We won a commission to actually do the project in 2020, right when COVID started. It's a really amazing brief. Theatre, West Gippsland Library, community spaces, museum, historical society, art gallery, council offices. So an enormous amount of stakeholder consultation, both internally with council, but also with external stakeholders too. Various theatre groups, arts groups, Bunurong Land Council, etc., etc. A lot of it, unfortunately, done via Zoom because of lockdown. But what were the principles of the site? Well, first, it was actually understanding that the site itself had two frontages, the main street, but also a bus interchange and car park to the east. Our first move was to really retain and celebrate the existing trees, which were primarily indigenous and also mature and beautiful. So how did we site a footprint that weaved itself around the trees? But once we'd done that, recognising the two addresses and creating a civic arrival from the west and a more informal garden arrival from the east. Getting inside the building with these various programs needed coherent organisation, and so the central circulation was called the Grand Hall, the civic spine that connected all these diverse programs. Volumetrically extruding the programs created a topographic response for the building, so that sort of fell and undulated. Really, we believe we resulted in a building that's a new civic facility which is deeply grounded in place and appropriate to the island and its site. So onto the plan itself, you could see the two various approaches, the two different courtyard types for the building. We work very closely with site office landscapers, a long time collaborator, thinking about these spaces and the native species and indigenous species that we would use here. Two entries, the civic spine, and you could see the diversity of programs that the building is offering with the library in the northwestern corner. Coming upstairs, we also have council offices, meeting rooms, and also upper levels of theatre and roof and equipment. The section itself shows how varied and diverse the programs were within this building, and also showed how the roof form of the building just gently ebbed and flowed and responded to that, helping really mark the building as a responder to the island. Sustainability was also really high on council's agenda, and this too is a passive house certified building, but not only that, it is utilising mass timber construction, zero carbon bricks, solar shading wherever possible. It's all about that passive house envelope. And solar panel production. I think there's over 70 kilowatts of solar panel photovoltaics on the roof, as well as rainwater collection. Modelling also by Habit on this one suggested that there would be a 70% reduction in energy consumption. So a lot of modelling and metrics went into helping support council's commitment for the upspend, probably in the vicinity of sort of 10 or 11% in terms of going for passive house. There's obviously a payback period, but the building starts making money then somewhere between 7 and 10 years. But this is a 40-year investment for council. So really strong metrics and a lot of very complex detailing work, airtight envelopes, heavy insulation on the walls, CLT panel walls, a heavily insulated slab, solar shading. So a lot of work in the envelope and the detailing, and particularly thinking about the thermal bridging and the cleating junctions and how we really transition between cold steel and warm steel. So a lot of deep technical work, and the building, when it's all wrapped up, it almost resembles an esky or a fridge box with all this very heavy insulation on board, and the formwork for the slabs is almost like a piece of art in its own right. Fortuitously, COVID meant that our best supply choices were local. Mass timber columns from Gippsland, Albury Wodonga for the CLT, bricks from Walnut. So trying to make the supply of the building as local as it could be. And here's some shots of construction. Firstly, starting with the slabs and the insulated formwork, the erection of some of the CLT panels on the north. The mass timber columns through the grand hall, some of which got up to 12 metres in height, and then the overlay of the steel framing structure as well. The building is about being centric to the island. We try to understand the geology, the topography, the ecology, and the plan form takes on board a sort of a loose relationship with the actual geometry of the island itself, which is a sort of a happy accident, I suppose. But we really wanted to create a building that was grounded in place. So we looked at the colours, the geology, the undulating topography to help inform the design response. One example of which is the articulated brickwork echoing the erosion and the pebbles of the pinnacles on the eastern form of the island. So onto the building itself, when viewed from the air with Thompson Avenue riding up to the water. Aerial view showing all our photo that takes, and also a well in the middle of the building for all our equipment, so it's actually hidden, you can't see it. Our civic forecourt, the retained trees, and the building as it is experienced from the street, wrapping around the existing trees and looking at it from Thompson Avenue with activation and sunshading. The sunshade is like a pleated curtain, like a curtain or waves lapping at the edge. 2 minutes? Yes. The eastern courtyard and starting to reveal the mass timber structure of the inner spaces. It's a very soft, gentle, warm building inside, so the biophilic qualities of the timber really shine through. Double height spaces and then more intimate spaces within the library, trying to expose the mass timber construction wherever possible. Community rooms are a really important part of the program, flexible and adaptable, and we did a lot of work designing how they might be able to open, close and use from multiple sources, but all the while referencing local history and the chicory kilns, which was one of the primary agricultural exports from the island in the 1800s. Throughout, the palette is soft and gentle and again constantly referencing the island. But we get into the theatre, one of the main pieces of the project, a fine acoustically tuned space back out of the grand hall. But these buildings are really about activation, and they come alive with the community, and it's about sponsoring enormous activity for this community. There's a huge investment for council and it's got to be used. They've curated a fantastic arts program of artists who are now coming to the island, people who never would have come and performed on the island before. But it's not about local and regional outreach, it's also about local groups. And it's about supporting local theatre groups like Living Circle and how they can activate the building, local arts groups. And so fundamentally, Berninneit is about a coming together, a gathering together for the island, and it's a facility that the council and the community are immensely proud of as well. That is that. Thank you.